There are mornings at the cabin when it feels wrong to speak. The world seems to be waking up on its own, and words only interrupt. It's easy to think that every day here begins with a project. There are logs to clear, trails to maintain, things that winter has scattered or reclaimed. But those things can wait. Morning has its own work. Before we begin caring for this place quietly cares for us. And the best thing we can do is listen. As the morning slowly found its rhythm, so did we. While Darcy trimmed the grass around the cabin, I headed down toward the beach to widen the trail. Winter storms had scattered drift logs along the shoreline, and over time, the path to the beach had begun to disappear. It seems like every winter the storms leave another collection of logs along the beach. At first, they look like little more than driftwood scattered by the sea. But leave them long enough, and something remarkable begins to happen. They slow the waves and catch seaweed and leaves, and little by little, the space behind them fills with soil. Grasses appear first, then shrubs, and eventually new ground takes shape where there was once only rock and tide. Looking at this beach, I sometimes wonder how many things in our own lives first arrived looking like obstacles, only to become the foundation for something we could not yet imagine. The tools for the job are simple: a chainsaw, a pickaroon, and a cant hook, and a splitting maul. The pickaroon and cant hook both belong to my dad, who has since passed on. I bought the cant hook for him years ago at a county fair in northern Minnesota. As he grew older and was less able to do his manual tasks, my son Brett and I would spend some weekends helping him put up his winter firewood. The wood certainly kept the house warm through those long, bitter Minnesota winters. But looking back, I think what really warmed that home was knowing we were all together, working side by side, 3 generations connected by something as ordinary as a pile of firewood. Dad also taught me how to use a chainsaw. He taught me to respect it, to think ahead, and to let patience do more of the work than force. Every time I reach for those old tools, I realize they carry much more than worn handles and weathered steel. They carry memories, lessons, and a way of caring that has been passed quietly from one generation to the next and now to the next. Over the years, I've come to realize that I no longer think of these jobs as maintenance. The cabin has become woven into our family story. Every season leaves behind reminders of the past. A trail we opened, or a deck that we built, a roof that was repaired. It also holds quiet anticipation for the future. There's always another project waiting, another reason to return. Somehow surrounded by memories of what has been and thoughts of what might come, the cabin always has a way of bringing us back to the present. The chainsaw was running well until, without much warning, it decided the morning's work should pause for a while. Out here, equipment has a way of reminding us that patience is every bit as important as preparation. Fortunately, this wasn't my first disagreement with the chainsaw. A while back, I had another quit on me. Darcy looked over and casually asked, "Do you think it needs a new spark plug?" Now, I've been around chainsaws for a long time, and in my experience, spark plugs rarely just stop working. I politely dismissed her suggestion and spent the better part of the afternoon convinced the problem had to be something much more complicated. Eventually, I hiked the saw back to my shop. Guess what it needed? A new spark plug. I'll be hearing about that one for the rest of my life, because Darcy believes that no dumb decision should ever go unnoticed.
Here's what we're doing today. It's April. It's definitely not my birthday anymore because this is what I'm doing for fun. Building trail underneath it. So this will be nice. This is the middle of our woods. And if Dan doesn't get the chainsaw going, then he has to cut all the logs by hand. And we're using a tarp for a picnic blanket. Pretty romantic. Yeah, it's about as romantic as Dan gets.
Yep.
Yeah, this is what I get to do for fun. This is my fun. He thinks it's fun. I'd rather be on a beach in Hawaii. Girls, a little advice. Don't ever marry a water rat skinner, which is muskrats. Because this is your picnic. That's a tarp. And that's a bucket that you sit on. Oh, but it's useful because you can turn it over and then use it for a toilet.
So this time, before assuming I knew the answer, I took a more humble approach and started with the simple things. All right, I cleaned the carburetor, took the fuel pump off, and cleaned out the jets. And now let's give it a try and see if it works. After a little troubleshooting, and by the way, the same old spark plug, it was back to life, and before long, the last log rolled clear of the trail. There's a quiet satisfaction in work like this, not because another project is finished, but because every small act of care deepens our relationship with this place. With the trail open once again, we carried the kayaks down to the beach. The morning's work was finished, and now it was time to see where the water would lead us. One of the things I enjoy most about kayaking is its pace. There are no engines, no schedules, and no shortcuts. Every mile is measured one paddle stroke at a time. Somehow, moving at that speed changes the way you see the world. You notice the light dancing on the water, the breeze on your face, the sounds of birds echoing from the shoreline. Things that would pass unnoticed at 30 miles an hour now become part of the journey. Pan Creek had become one of our favorite places to paddle. We've made this trip many times, and no two visits ever seem to be the same. Sometimes we're greeted by eagles perched high in the spruce. Other days it's curious seals that follow us for a while before quietly disappearing beneath the surface. Occasionally, we see bear along the shoreline, or salmon jumping. And sometimes the greatest gift is simply the quiet. We've learned not to paddle with expectations. Nature doesn't perform on command, and we've found that's part of its beauty. Whatever the day offers is enough. Today, loons made an unexpected appearance. As we slipped quietly further along the shoreline, the only sounds were the gentle splash of our paddles and the distant calls of seabirds. When we slow down, we begin to notice more. When we stop looking for something extraordinary, the ordinary often becomes extraordinary all by itself. We continued paddling toward Pan Creek, grateful simply to be there. Before long, we spotted a family of mergansers quietly watching us from the shoreline. We eased a little closer, hoping to enjoy their company for a few moments longer. They studied us carefully, but eventually their better judgment prevailed, and perhaps they had been told about the sparkplug story. With a sudden burst of wings, they lifted from the water and disappeared over Frederick Sound. Pan Creek has become our source of fresh water whenever the rains decide to ignore us for a while. It's one of those small places that gradually becomes part of your life. I've often wondered how it got its name. Maybe someone listening to this knows the story. If you do, I'd love to hear it. We lingered there for a while, enjoying the quiet before beginning the paddle back toward the cabin. When we reached the beach, Darcy headed up to the deck. Well, I decided to stay on the water a little longer. Sometimes there's no particular reason to keep paddling. The water was calm, the day was beautiful, and I wasn't quite ready for it to end. As I paddled, I saw a single humpback whale out on the Sound. It wasn't part of a larger group. seemed to be just one solitary whale and was probably a juvenile. Every so often it would surface, take a breath, and quietly disappear beneath the water again. We've watched what we believe is the same whale from the cabin over the past several visits. Each encounter with it has seemed a little closer than the last. Whether that's because the whale has become more comfortable with us, because we become more comfortable with it, or simply because that's the way chance has unfolded, I honestly don't know. Perhaps the humpback has forgiven my spark plug mishap faster than my spouse. At first, it kept its distance. Then, without making a sound, it appeared directly behind my kayak. I had no idea it was there until I heard the blow up close and I turned around. It was incredibly close, perhaps no more than 2 paddle lengths away. I waited and watched. Then, almost without warning, it surfaced again, this time just off my left side and even closer. I had never been that close to a humpback whale while sitting in a kayak. Coming to that kind of close contact with another species has a remarkable way of changing your awareness. For just a moment, we looked at one another. As its head rose above the surface, I could see its eyes. Then it quietly slipped beneath the surface. I couldn't help but smile. Maybe it had never seen a long orange floaty thing like a kayak before. Eventually, it slipped beneath the surface once again and disappeared into Frederick Sound. The ripples slowly faded, but the encounter didn't. And even now, it's difficult to describe exactly what changed in me that day. I only know that when I turned my kayak toward shore, I wasn't quite the same person who had paddled out a little earlier. It's important to note that the water here in Southeast Alaska is beautiful, but it is also unforgiving. Even in summer, it's cold enough that an unexpected swim can quickly become a serious situation. If the kayak were overturned, I'd need to reach shore before the cold began taking away strength and clear thinking. I found myself thinking about another evening on this very shoreline. It had been one of those rare Alaskan nights when the water was perfectly still, no moonlight at all. My son Brett and I were sitting together on the deck after sunset, saying very little. The stars above us were reflected so clearly on the water that it was hard to tell where the sky ended and the sea began. Then, without warning, a humpback whale surfaced. Its breath rose through the reflection of the stars in the water, and for a brief moment it felt as though everything had become one scene. The sky, the sea, the whale, and the quiet we were sharing together. I remember feeling something I couldn't explain then, and I still can't fully explain it today. It wasn't simply wonder or excitement. It was a quiet awareness that I was standing very close to something immense, something that couldn't be measured or understood, only experienced. I had experienced the infinite. As I sat there remembering that evening with Brett, another memory quietly surfaced. Many years ago, before daylight, my dad and I were drifting silently through a northern Minnesota marsh in a canoe on our way duck hunting. Again, the water was perfectly calm. The stars stretched from one horizon to the other, reflected so completely on the water, it felt as though we were floating through the night sky itself. Looking back now, I realize these moments have appeared only a handful of times throughout my life. Different waters and different years with different people beside me. Yet they all carried the same quiet feeling. I've spent much of my life drawn toward two worlds. One has been wilderness, for sure. The other has been the search for ideas that don't yet exist. For years, they seem to be separate journeys. But moments like these leave me wondering if both begin in the same place. I've never found the right name for that place. And perhaps I never will, but some things aren't meant to be explained. Maybe they're simply meant to be received with gratitude, carried with us, and quietly returned to whenever life offers them up again. The whale was gone, The ripples had long disappeared, yet something about the day remained. I often thought that wilderness doesn't change who we are. Instead, it has a way of quietly revealing parts of ourselves that everyday life can too easily cover over. Perhaps that's why we keep returning. Not to escape the world we've built, but to remember our place within a much larger one. This little cabin has become part of that journey. It holds memories of those who came before us. It holds hopes for those who will come after us. And somehow, in the middle of those memories and expectations, it always brings us back to the present. I don't know why a quiet morning, a few hours of caring for a cabin, a paddle along the shoreline, and an unexpected encounter with a whale can leave such a lasting impression. I only know that they do. Maybe that's enough. Some experiences aren't asking to be explained, they're asking to be lived. As we packed away the kayaks, I found myself looking across the water one last time, not expecting to see the whale again, just grateful that for a little while we shared the same place at the same time. Tomorrow, there will be more work to do in the built world. Another modern trail to walk, another day's sunrise to greet. And if we're fortunate, another opportunity to belong just a little more deeply than we did today.